Hello everybody, it is I, Archangel, and today we have a Dell Precision T3600. So, real quick, just starting this, and it's really dirty, and it came with, I already forgot what this one is, but this graphic card, crappy little GPU, it's 256 megabytes of VRAM. Or it has 256 megabytes of VRAM, not that powerful. I bought a 4 gig RX 580, and I bought the power supply for like $55 because this has a proprietary power supply, and I'll show more of that later. But the system is still dirty. I just plugged the power supply and the graphic card in just to test to see if it turned on. It went to the BIOS just fine, no problem, so it displayed everything. So that's good enough for me. So I'm going to take out the graphic card, take out the power supply, because those are actually pretty clean. And then I'm going to dust the rest of the computer out in my garage. So see you in a hot second. Okay guys, it is Editing David back in the house. Okay, so basically this whole video is just me cleaning it out. So I started cleaning it out. The front 3 fans were a pain in the butt to get out, but once I get them out, you know, they cleaned relatively well. I had to take them apart. They're all held in by like rubber pins. Each one is in a corner or whatever, so like where you would normally use case screws or whatever, they used little rubber, I guess rubber pins or something. It's hard to describe, but either way, it's really easy and it slides right in, and it's kind of cool that they have the 3 fans at the front. But despite it looking cool, those 3 fans don't really do anything for the system, which is super annoying. Yeah, they spin and they bring in new ventilation or whatever, but they don't do it at a rate where it's really beneficial, and the system still gets a little loud sometimes when playing games, which is kind of frustrating when you know it should be able to keep it cool. But the CPU was still in the temperatures it's supposed to be in, so the E5-1620 at 3.6 gigahertz is a 4-core, 4-threaded CPU. It's actually pretty nice, especially with that hyper-threading there. It's supposed to be around 80 degrees at all times, and in gaming, it was almost at all times at 80 degrees. And when I wasn't playing games and the system was idle, or I was watching YouTube or whatever, I don't remember the temperatures then. I just know that it was really cool then that I couldn't even hear it, pretty much, which was, that is a good thing. That I didn't hear it all the time, so I could like listen to music on my monitor if I wanted to or whatever. But system did get a little noisy, but that's what we have headphones for. Once you have headphones on, you can barely hear the system at all, even if it's at full throttle. Which, you know, it never had any overheating issues, which was good. It played games fine, and whew, yeah. So cleaning it wasn't that bad. Now, the system does have a proprietary power supply, so I had to buy that separately, and the power supply was already cleaned, and the graphic card was actually pretty decent condition. It's new enough, I think, that it doesn't need thermal paste, and it wasn't dusty at all whatsoever. The temperatures on that thing were also 80 degrees, or just below 80 degrees at all times. I don't think it actually ever went above 80 degrees. But I wish it was a bit cooler, but you know, there's not much I could do about that. You could take off the side panel technically and just leave it off. That drops all the temperatures by like 5 degrees, but and it does get a little less noisy. But most people like do not trust themselves or their pets. Like, I have pets hanging around. I cannot just have a system like this open for very long unless I have my door shut all the time, because my cat will like to poke things, and the system does get hot enough that it will burn, or it could like hurt your pet if they decide to, you know, stick their hand in it, and maybe they're gonna get hit by a fan, or maybe they're gonna touch the heat sink, and heat sinks get hot. Like 80 degrees Celsius is very hot. I could barely touch it with my fingers, and I'm pretty heat resistant, I guess. Either way, that's besides the point. So here I'm having an issue installing the DVD drive. That was a pain in the butt. So apparently there was a metal plate I was supposed to put in underneath or on top of another thing, but I accidentally did it the opposite way, so I had to struggle for a bit after trying to get the DVD drive in, and then I realized the mistake. I corrected the mistake, and then I fixed it. And then for the RAM, we have 16 gigs of ECC registered memory that I originally had for the Terminator build, but the Terminator build didn't really work out or whatever, or it wouldn't work with that RAM because the motherboard CPU didn't support it, but this motherboard does. This motherboard already had, how much? I had 8 gigs of Samsung memory at, hold on, I have the RAM in my hands right here, at, 1280R. Oh, well, I think that's just a model number. Well, crap. Okay, well, we're gonna say, I think it was around 1300 megahertz or whatever of DDR3 RAM, but I got the ECC registered RAM, which was at 10,600 megahertz or something around there. That's what it says on the RAM stick. I forgot to check the speed. I have the computer with me still, but it's not hooked up, so I'm not really gonna worry about that. The system is relatively nice, though. I like how most of it performs. The system overall is pretty good. I'm just disappointed that the graphic card wasn't able to be pushed as far as I thought it could be, because it has 4 gigs of VRAM. So I thought, oh, obviously all high, or I thought, okay, it'll easily do medium, but I want to do high settings. Well, this card, the 570, isn't that powerful. So like a GTX 970 could handle all games on medium settings. High, medium settings. Yeah, the RX 570 does not handle games that well at high settings, but it is actually a pretty decent medium card. If you're looking for like medium 1080p, it is actually pretty decent in that. Like, I played Metro Exodus on high settings, but I recommend medium settings. We'll talk about that more later. But we'll actually talk about all the gaming stuff a little bit later. But yeah, the system has a brand new SSD, a PNY 500 gig SSD, brand new, has a 3-year warranty, so that's cool. Everything else in the system is used. It's all in the description what exactly there is. I had to get a new SATA cable for the DVD drive because it wasn't plugged in. And what's cool is that the power supply has multiple cables or whatever. So you slide Foxy, shush. Okay, sorry, that's my dog. The power supply slides into like what looks like a PCI slot almost, and like on a little daughter board. The little daughter board has the little sleeved cables, which actually are kind of cool, that go off into like the motherboard, and everything's proprietary. Well, what's cool is that it has a little laptop like power SATA cable that plugs into that very thin, DVD drive there. The optical drive, you could put a full-sized one in there, but I wouldn't really recommend it because it's meant for a half-sized or whatever. It does have room for a full optical drive, but I don't know why. There's no like power SATA cable stuff. But yeah, I did struggle with installing the optical drive. Again, I wrote it down right there, or typed it, and I also apologize for the beginning of the video where I said, what was it? Oh yeah, the 580 or something instead of 570. Yeah, this is not a 580. A 580 4 gig would perform way better than this card just from raw power. And I did have to get a 2 6-pin an 8-pin adapter for the graphic card because the system has 2 6-pin connectors, which is scary. When I realized that, I freaked out. I was lucky enough that I had 2 6-pin to 8-pin adapter in my locker, like that the little bunch of lockers that I have in my room to store all my computer stuff. So if you want to get a graphic card for a system like this, make sure you know what graphic card you're buying and how many, like, what's the connection. Like, is it an 8-pin? Is it 2 6-pins? Like, see, I have the adapter already on there, and luckily it's just little blue clips that take it out, and none of the PCI slots were there. So, or not slots, the little metal pieces or whatever that go in the back of the case. Luckily, the extensions or the adapter reached long enough that I could, put it in the little clip that was originally meant for the 2 6-pin PCI things. You could go for a weak, lower end graphic card or whatever, or you could go for a much higher end graphic card or higher power draw, because 635 watts and the power supply is gold rated. Now, it is used, but it's actually pretty nice. But here we have Rainbow Six Siege. The video footage is a little messed up. It's a lot smoother when you actually play it. It just looks bad because my video camera recorded it really quickly, and then I slowed it down in my video editing software, so it looks worse than it actually is. But it did play at 177 FPS, I believe on medium or high settings, something like that. It could have done a lot higher. I probably could have maxed it out. Yeah, high settings. It was really good. I loved playing Siege. Metro Exodus was mostly smooth. It was mostly in the 70s or whatever, but every time there was a storm or whatever, every now and then when you go through heavy storms, the FPS would drop to like 55 or like 45 or something like that, and it would just like be a massive drop from like cut in half from 70 to or 80 to like 45 or whatever, and you could notice those major drops. They didn't really affect combat, but it was really annoying. So now we have Cold War. Cold War really sped through on accident, but yeah, you could pause if you wanted to look at the settings. I'm not even gonna. I believe they were all medium settings. That played relatively fine, and Warzone also played relatively fine. I can only use low texture quality, and then everything else I set for medium, and then render distance or something like that I set to high or something like that as far as the system would let me. It would play above 60 FPS, I believe, with occasional drops to like 55 or something like that. They weren't very noticeable, or maybe you could notice them, but I thought it was still perfectly playable to play the system like that. I wasn't held back by the system at all. It was my own self holding me back every time I messed up, and you could go for all those settings in order to make sure you get as competitive as possible. I was just wanting to keep some quality with the quality with close to 60 FPS, and I just, that's how I liked it. I didn't have too many problems, so I didn't lower the settings. Easy as that. If you don't like it, you can lower the settings and like turn up view distance or something. It's still a really good game on low. But either way, I'm showing off the system and talking about how it went. It went relatively well, or it did go well. Everything was pretty nice. There's only one fan on CPU cooler in the case, so the side panel won't go on unless you hammer part of inside of the side panel. I had part of the footage on here, but I guess I don't anymore. But I riveted it out, all the little things that I could in the case side panel, and then I hammered it to the side, and then the side panel can fit on the case just fine. That was probably the jankiest thing I had to do here next to the two 6-pin to 8-pin adapter. Now that 6-pin to 8-pin adapter worked actually really well, and it's a thicker cable, so it's not going to melt or anything crazy. I had no problems with it. But yeah, sorry about the whole video footage mess or whatever. All my stuff's my own, I promise. I don't like raw copying people, or I don't like stealing their stuff. That's rude. And I would say, hey, this is from their video or whatever. But anyways, this is my Dell Precision T3600 into a gaming PC. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what I did good. Let me know what I did bad. Let me know what I can improve on. And I hope you guys like this video. And please remember to subscribe. And have a nice day. Bye. Archangel out.